November 10th, 1975. The massive ship Edmund Fitzgerald was crossing Lake Superior, carrying more than 26,000 tons of iron ore. On board were 29 crew members. For them, it was supposed to be just another routine voyage. The Edmund Fitzgerald was one of the largest ships on the Great Lakes, a true giant of its time, a vessel that had spent years carrying cargo through some of the most challenging waters in North America. But this journey would be different. A powerful storm was building over the lake. The waves were rising, the winds were getting stronger, the temperature was dropping. Yet the Edmund Fitzgerald continued moving forward. And this is where the first mystery begins. Why did the captain decide not to turn back? Captain Ernest McSorley was an experienced sailor with decades of time on the water. He knew Lake Superior. He knew how dangerous these waters could become. But that day, the Edmund Fitzgerald was not the only ship caught in the storm. Another freighter, the Arthur M. Anderson, was nearby. Its captain was also receiving warnings about the worsening weather. At first, everything seemed normal. The Edmund Fitzgerald stayed on course. Communication was working. The crew continued their routine. No one knew these would be the final hours of 29 lives. Then the situation began to change. The storm that first looked like nothing more than strong winds became a battle against nature itself. The waves grew so powerful that even the enormous Edmund Fitzgerald began to feel their force. But the greatest mystery was still ahead, because this ship did not simply sink. It disappeared without warning. There was no distress call, no message reporting a serious problem, no time for an evacuation. The last communication from Captain McSorley sounded calm. But a few hours later, the Arthur M. Anderson tried to contact the Edmund Fitzgerald, and there was no answer. How could one of the largest ships of its time simply vanish in the middle of a lake? And what really happened during the final moments before the Edmund Fitzgerald disappeared beneath the waves? When the Edmund Fitzgerald stopped responding, a massive search operation began. But Lake Superior is not an ordinary body of water. Its enormous depth, its freezing temperatures, its sudden and violent storms, all of these factors made the search extremely difficult. Hours passed, then days, but there was no sign of the ship. And one question became impossible to ignore. What could destroy a vessel nearly 730 feet long so quickly that the crew never had time to send a distress call? The first and most obvious explanation was the storm. On the night of the disaster, Lake Superior was being hit by powerful winds and enormous waves. Some witnesses described waves reaching more than 30 feet high. For any ship, this would have been a serious challenge. But there was one problem. The Edmund Fitzgerald was built to handle difficult conditions. It had survived countless journeys across the Great Lakes. So why did this voyage end differently? Days after the disappearance, search crews finally located the wreckage deep beneath Lake Superior. And what they discovered only created more questions. The ship was lying broken into two separate sections. The bow and stern were resting apart from each other on the lake floor. But the most important detail was this. The wreck did not simply look like a ship that had rolled over in a storm. That led researchers to consider another possibility, that maybe the waves were not the only cause. Maybe the ship suffered damage before it disappeared. One theory suggests that the Edmund Fitzgerald may have struck the bottom while traveling through a shallow area. Even a small structural failure could have allowed water to enter the ship. But this explanation also leaves unanswered questions. If the ship was already in trouble, why didn't the crew send a distress call? Why did the final radio messages sound calm? Why was there no SOS? There is another mystery. Before the final disappearance, Captain Ernest McSorley communicated with the nearby ship Arthur M. Anderson. He reported that the Edmund Fitzgerald was experiencing problems, but he never suggested that the situation was critical. Then, shortly afterward, the communication stopped. 29 sailors disappeared with their ship. But when investigators studied the wreckage in greater detail, they discovered clues that forced them to question the original theories. Could a single mistake have brought down one of the largest ships on the Great Lakes? Or was the real cause hidden inside the design and condition of the Edmund Fitzgerald itself? More than 50 years have passed since the tragedy. But one question still remains unanswered. What exactly caused the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald? Researchers continue to study the wreck, analyze the weather conditions, and reconstruct the ship's final hours. Today, many experts believe the disaster was not caused by a single factor. Instead, it was likely a combination of several dangerous events happening at the same time. The first factor was the storm. That night, Lake Superior became a deadly environment. Powerful winds created massive waves that could strike the ship's hull with incredible force. But there was another problem. The Edmund Fitzgerald was an enormous vessel. Large ships are built to carry huge amounts of cargo, but during extreme storms, their long hulls can experience tremendous stress. And this leads to one of the most famous theories. The ship may have encountered a series of unusually large waves known as the Three Sisters. These waves could have flooded the deck, damaged equipment, or created conditions where the ship could no longer survive. But there is another detail that makes this disaster so mysterious. When researchers examined the wreck, they discovered that the ship was lying on the lake floor, broken into two sections. The bow and stern were separated. That means an enormous force acted on the vessel during its final moments. But what exactly happened? Did the ship slowly take on water? Was it suddenly overwhelmed by a massive wave? Or was there a hidden structural failure that no one saw coming? We may never know for certain, because along with the ship, 29 men disappeared into Lake Superior, the only people who could have revealed what truly happened that night. Today, the Edmund Fitzgerald is more than just a sunken ship. It has become a symbol of the dangers of the Great Lakes and a reminder of how unpredictable nature can be. A massive vessel, an experienced crew, a powerful storm, and no distress signal. Only a wreck resting deep below the surface and a mystery that remains unsolved. What really happened to the Edmund Fitzgerald? Perhaps the final answer will remain hidden forever beneath the cold waters of Lake Superior. But perhaps the most haunting part of the Edmund Fitzgerald story is not how the ship disappeared. It is how quickly everything changed. Just hours before the tragedy, the crew was doing what they had done countless times before. They were sailing a familiar route. They were following a normal schedule. They were expecting to reach their destination. And then, somewhere in the darkness of Lake Superior, everything went silent. No final message, no survivors, no clear explanation. Over the years, countless searches, investigations, and underwater studies have tried to uncover the truth. But the lake has kept its secret. The Edmund Fitzgerald remains at the bottom of Lake Superior, where it became a permanent reminder that even the largest ships, the most experienced crews, and the best technology can still be defeated by nature. And perhaps that is why this story continues to fascinate people decades later, because the greatest mysteries are not always the ones where we have no clues. Sometimes they are the ones where we have just enough clues to keep searching for the truth.